Hello, my true crime lovelies. How are you? Thank you for your patience. This is going to be day 4 of Arizona versus Lori Vallow Daybell. And I'm going to cut it up into 2 parts. So, the beginning, I'm just going to go through my notes. I have a couple of clips and some visuals for you. And then at the second half of the video, I'm going to go over the testimony. Like, I'm going to play the video and react to it, the testimony of Adam Cox and Kay Woodcock. So, I'll probably actually make it into 3 videos in the end, but this one's going to be the big one. So buckle up. Okay, so my notes first are the witnesses from the state today were Adam Cox. Lori obviously cross-examined. Well, I shouldn't say obviously. There was one witness she didn't cross-examine last week. Then we have William McDonald, who is a retired Chandler police officer currently teaching forensics at a high school. He's going to talk about the Cellbrite extractions. We have Melissa Francisco, who conducted tests on the bat that was at the crime scene. Kay Woodcock we have, and then I'm skipping one person, Serena Sharp, who is an LDS member. So she comes after Adam does, but let's start with Adam. So Adam is Lori's brother, and they were once close, according to him, and are no longer. And he said Lori had come to him with her new religious beliefs, and one of them was that she was married to Moroni, and she asked if he thought she were crazy. And he said, I don't think you're crazy, but what you're saying is not true. If you're wondering who Moroni is, because I was, so I looked it up. He's an angel who happened to write, let me get my screen right, who happened to write the last book. He's the last contributor to the Book of Mormon. He is seen in this picture that I showed here on a lot of the temples, except where they aren't allowed legally. Lori also told Adam that she had more priesthood power than anyone else. She was an exalted being. He mentioned that in his religion, the men are superior, so it would not be possible for the woman to have priesthood power. Despite that, Lori was out giving blessings to people, right, including her brother Alex Cox. Lori stopped talking to him after he said, I don't know if you're crazy, but what you're saying is not true. He and Charles were working to have her temple recommend revoked. Apparently, she was going to temple daily, which is excessive. And they thought that if they took this away, she would not be able to go to temple. And that would be like a realization that she was off path. Remember, Charles had also converted to Mormonism. And so they knew what she was teaching was not the true Mormonism. It was some sort of weird offshoot, the preparing of the people that Chad had come up with. So that they had been talking about that when when Charles came to Arizona, returned to Arizona, he was meant to meet up with Adam. They were going to record her saying crazy stuff and then go through the appropriate people within the Mormon church at that location. I can't remember their names, like their titles, the state, the president. That was their plan. Like, it was very loosely constructed. They didn't have like a full-on intervention plan beyond that. Because usually when you think of an intervention, it's multiple family members, multiple people who love that person who are trying to intercede. So they're calling it an intervention, but they didn't have a full plan other than to record her somehow and have the people at the church help them get her temple recommend revoked so she couldn't go to temple. So Adam pushed for Alex to be held accountable by the family once the shooting had happened. And at that point, the family stopped talking to him based on the word of Lori. So when Lori crossed, oh wait, I want to go through these other Moroni pictures with you. The angel Moroni in Mormonism. And then I found these pictures. I really like the artwork. So this is also Moroni with the gold plates. This is Moroni. He appears to Joseph Smith in his room by Tom Lowell is this artwork. And then Joseph Smith receives the gold plates from Moroni. So there's different versions of him, but this is who Lori claimed that her husband was. No bolder statement could be made about God's involvement in history than that of an angel delivering a historical record full of interactions with God, including the stunning account of the divine and risen Lord Jesus Christ, ministering personally to the Nephites. Perhaps most relevant of all, the coming forth of the Book of Mormon launched a new beginning, the dawning. So I thought that was interesting that she's like the main dude. She's married to him. And so that's how she's an exalted being. She can't be harmed. She lives forever. She is something that doesn't exist, basically. Okay, back to my notes over here. So when Lori got up to cross Adam, she asked him, when was the last time we've seen each other? And this gets dicey. Like, this is why I think she's going to open the door, because he could have been like, before you went to prison or before you were in your, I mean, he knows not to, but she's not being cautious. She's expecting the witnesses to be cautious. And so far they have. We got really close with Nancy Joe on day 3 when Lori said, well, what specifically did you talk about me? And Nancy Joe looked at the judge and was like, can I do a narrative? And then that's when they took a break, and Lori, when they resumed, did not come back with that line of questioning. But she's going on and on about, when did you see me? She probably remembers it very clearly. Adam did not remember it, and I've since seen him on his podcast with his Uncle Rex, Silver Lining podcast, and he was like, he really didn't remember, but she did her thing, like, was it 8 years? Was it this many years? Was it that? So finally he was like, sure, yeah. I think they landed somewhere on 8 years. Obviously the murder was 6 years ago. So she's saying she hasn't talked to him since before the murder. My point is, she didn't have a point. I think that she was trying to connect with her brother, but obviously it had nothing to do with the trial. He already said that she had stopped talking to him when she was going on about these beliefs of being married to Moroni. And then the family had stopped talking. He said that on direct. So sometimes she just asks questions to be asking questions, and they don't seem to have, like, I don't see what her point was. I don't see how whenever he saw her is going to feed into her closing. It doesn't link to her opening about it being a family accident. It is, if anything, she's underscoring that her family members, or at least one of her family member, did not agree with her beliefs. And there's some outlandish beliefs, right? She almost opened that up with Karen Joe. So weird, but then she went on about her enchiladas with green chilies and chicken, which she claims to be famous for. And I found this clip from her cousin, Megan, who I originally thought was her niece, but the members got me right as rain. This is her cousin, around the same age, I'm being told. She looks much more youthful, maybe because she doesn't do crimes. But let's take a look at what she has to say about the famous chicken and green chilies enchiladas, shall we?
Do you remember the green chili chicken enchiladas that I made? And he said, no, the green chili chicken enchiladas hit me. I think we need to have a t-shirt about that. You don't remember my green chili chicken enchiladas? The green chili chicken enchilada recipe is not that great. It is just shredded chicken with a can of green chilies and a brick of cream cheese. Put that inside a tortilla, roll it up, and then put cheese on top with no sauce or anything. It was not a good recipe, not delicious. Some people like it, but I considered it, Mormon food, which is generally speaking pretty bland and tasteless. Not much seasoning there. Lots of canned food and stuff.
So take that, chicken green chilies enchiladas. That sounds gross. I'm imagining like a can of shredded chicken, a can of green chilies, and like she said, the brick of cream cheese just all stirred up and then put in a tortilla. That does not sound delicious at all. If she's famous for that, well, we know she's not famous for that. She's famous for unaliving her children. But in her mind, I feel like she was trying to bring back to some normalcy. She also asked, I forgot to say, when she was asking Adam about when's the last time, she was trying to narrow it down. And she was like, did I see you at Colby's wedding? And he was like, no, I wasn't there. Now, in Megan's version, she thinks that Lori was being sanctimonious, like, you didn't come. In Adam's version, he thought she was having some kind of mind glitch and just didn't remember that he wasn't there. You guys decide, whatever it is. It was pointless to ask him about it on the stand. Again, it didn't support what she said in opening, what she was going to lay out as evidence. I don't see how it supports as her closing. Although I don't know what her closing is going to be. A lot of us are speculating. Well, I'm not speculating. I'm exploring it. That maybe she's going to blame it all on Tylee, like she did with the death of JJ. I just don't see. I have to go back to her opening and break it up. But I don't see how she laid that foundation in her opening. And I don't see how her questioning is giving her building blocks to point in that direction for her closing. But I know you guys will get me right. If you have seen or heard something specifically that indicates that, let me know. The state has a largely circumstantial evidence case. I think that's why Lori knows that. That's why she keeps saying, did you see or hear me conspire with my brother to murder my husband, Charles Vallow? Which Kay had a good clap back for that. So when we get to that part of the testimony, no one was there that is still alive. So it's a weak argument. However, the jury doesn't know that everybody is dead, right? They know Alex is because she said it in her opening. They don't know about the children. Kay alluded to it, and I'll get there because she explains when's the last time she saw JJ. If I'm the jury, because you know I'm nosy, I'm always connecting the dots. I'm like, well, why is that the last time that she saw him in 2019 and we're in 2025? Where has he been? Do you know? I don't know if they're questioning that about Tylee, but everything she's saying about the evidence, what she said in her opening, the evidence will show Tylee had the evidence can't show that because Tylee can't testify. Charles can't testify. Alex can't testify. So what evidence was there in a camera inside that we don't know about? Do you know what I mean? I'm just calling BS on that. Once she was done questioning, the prosecution went back up for redirect, and Lori protested redirect because they went into questions about the gun. And as we all know, redirect is to address whatever was said on cross. And because she hadn't covered this on cross, it was beyond the scope. But Lori got really passionate, angry, yelling about it. This is not, da, da, da. And the judge was like, hold on. No speaking objections. But he let the prosecution continue. Once the prosecution sat down, he said, you know, the defendant made the point about it being out of the scope, and I think she may be right. So on that note, would the defense like to recross the witness so that we can cover this? And she didn't. So the court is covered for appeal purposes, right? Because he did allow her the opportunity to readdress since it went beyond the scope. She did not take it. I don't think she was prepared for it. I think when she objects, if it doesn't get approved in her favor, I'm saying favor from Sarah Boone, but you know what I mean, then she doesn't have a rebuttal for it because I don't know what she would have said for it, but she should have said something since she was so outrageous, right? Or outraged. I guess on appeal, you could say like the cat was out of the bag already, but he did give her an opportunity to cue her. So she had nothing to say. And basically the questions were like, was it normal for Alex to walk around with a gun? Because remember, he had it in the case at her house and like he was spending the night to protect her, which implies he brought it over thinking he was going to use it. Otherwise, why not leave it at home? You know, he lives right around the corner. So the next witness after Alex was Serena Sharp. She is an LDS member. She came in March of 2019. So remember, Charles was killed in July of 2019 to a gathering for the people. What is it? Oh my God. Wait. Something of the people, gathering of the people, whatever it is, the cult that they were in. And she stayed at Lori's house. She was kind of hoodwinked into staying there. She was meant to stay at Melanie Gibbs. Melanie was like, picked her up from the airport. You can't stay at my house. There's all these people. At that point, I would have been like, I'm out. So she had stayed at Lori's house, having never met her before, which was a little weird. While she was there, they were doing casting off of evil and dark spirits. They explained what the spirits were. Alex said he wanted to kill Charles in her presence. Lori did not admonish him or, you know, oh my God, don't say that. Nothing. And so at that time, Lori also mentioned zombies, and Lori announced that they collectively no longer needed to repent. And then when asked for clarification on that, Serena was like, you know, I believe she said for all of us, but it could have just been for her that she no longer needed to repent. And obviously in any religion, you need to like throw yourself at the mercy of your deity and ask for forgiveness. But according to Lori, that no longer needed to happen for her. Lori crossed her. I'm not going to cover this in the videos. Lori was a big bully. I don't think it will read well with the jury, especially all male jury. Not that women will condone cattiness, but some women are catty and they may relate to that, right? But I think it came across like a mean girl, the same with what happened with Karen Joe. And I think the jury will see it as that. Then next came William McDonald. Like I said, he's the forensic analyst. He's basically there to lay the foundation for the extraction, the Cellbrite extraction of Charles's phone. Lori protested because she's claiming she didn't get the actual download. She got a report of the download, not understanding it's like ones and zeros, and she's not technically trained to even read the actual extraction. That was overruled. Judge said, I don't know that that will permit this from coming in, but objection noted. And I don't know where she's going with that. I know she has an expert. However, the expert did not submit a report in time. She and her investigator couldn't figure out how to get the data to her expert. So it's going to be a little bit of a surprise later this week, because I believe the state will rest this week, of like who Lori calls, who's actually accepted to be called. Has the prosecution had an opportunity to interview them? It's a little dicey, but again, she wanted her speedy trial. So there you go. I believe more people will come in to talk about the text messages of Charles, right? And so he's the decedent. He is a hearsay exception. So someone will be reading like, this is what Charles said to Lori, or this is when Charles contacted Tammy Daybell, or whatever it is they're going to enter. He's laying the foundation, William McDonald, for this is how we got the data. This is where it came from. I'm an expert. I can be trusted. This data is valid. Next was Melissa Francisco. She swabbed the bat handle, did not have it tested for DNA as she wasn't instructed, and she's not a DNA analyst. She looked for latent fingerprints. She did the super glue fuming. I think we've all seen that on like the network shows where they put it in an enclosure and then they do the fumes in there, and the super glue sticks to parts of it so you can make out a fingerprint. This was interesting because she couldn't include or exclude Charles's fingerprints on this bat. And then there were no other fingerprints, right? Which is, I would say, and she only tested for Charles, I should correct that, but it would make sense because the bat was in Lori's home. Lori and Tylee lived in the home, so it wouldn't be unusual for their fingerprints to be on there. But did the bat get wiped down? I don't understand. It doesn't substantiate the story that Lori is telling about Charles coming at her with the bat, and Tylee, he was coming at Tylee. Tylee was trying to intercede and help them. If Tylee grabbed the bat and started with the bat, why weren't there fingerprints of Tylee on there? It's just as like, or other fingerprints, right? There was an indeterminate fingerprint on there. She couldn't say it was Charles. She couldn't say it wasn't Charles. So maybe it was smudged. It's giving bat was wiped off, which I don't know. Either way, it disproves what Lori said in her opening, the evidence will show. So this evidence is not supporting that Charles had the bat. This evidence is not supporting that Tylee handled the bat. My thinking is, and obviously this is not evidence, this is my 2 cents, because the bat was on the wrong side of Charles's body, right? It was where his right hand was, although he was left-handed, and his sister will later testify that he batted with his left and he pitched with his left. So Alex placed it there. I feel like Alex probably wiped off the bat to get off his own fingerprints, not thinking he's also wiping off, because that would make, you know, a smudged fingerprint, that would make it indeterminate. Like you couldn't include or exclude. There was enough of a ridge to identify something, but not definitive enough to say, yes, this is Charles, or no, this can't be Charles, right? So I think Alex wiped off the bat and then set it on the wrong side of Charles. That's what the evidence is telling me. We'll see how it is, how the prosecution presents that. She did specify upon questioning that she was not asked to test for Tylee. And again, it wouldn't be weird for Tylee's fingerprints to be on there because it's in her home and it's her bat. She mentioned it in the police interview the day that Charles was shot, because she said, oh, when I stayed with Alex, I had it. I needed it for protection. So next up after Melissa was Kay Woodcock. Kay for the win. Steel Magnolia all day, every day. She tells us that Charles converted to Mormonism for Lori.
Said he would leave his wife and kids and convert from Catholic to Baptist. Now, you know, that's some mean to make a man change God.
Charles was a left-handed pitcher and batter. Lori was missing for 56 days. He was trying to serve her with divorce papers. And she told Charles that she didn't want Charles and JJ anymore. as was told by Kay. And again, that's a hearsay exception because he is the victim in this case. Then she decided, Kay, like, let's move you back to Houston. You'll be closer to Louisiana, like, while Lori was off gallivanting God knows where. And so they had that plan. Kay was helping him pack up the house to get to Houston, and Lori pops up and is yelling, like, you took him out of his school and you did this. In her opening, she doesn't allude to that. She made it like it was a family decision that they moved and then decided to move back because of the school. In this case, she had no idea that they were leaving, although she had said she didn't want Charles and JJ anymore. But that would, if she just let them go and allowed the divorce to happen, that would eliminate her being the beneficiary of the $1 million policy. That would eliminate her having custody of JJ to collect the Social Security once Charles was murdered, right? So it's all a little like Lori totally omitted all of that she was off, presumably with Charles. With Chad. It's hard with the two CHs. We don't know. And all told, it was 70 some odd days when it was all said and done that Lori was MIA. So while they were moving, she said she had to go back to Hawaii. She had some sort of project in Hawaii.
Was the project named Chad? You tell me.
At that time, Charles received a commission of about $150,000, and Lori knew it was coming. So she popped up in Houston. She slept in JJ's room. So I guess she was like cozying up. I'm not sure if that's when she stole money from Charles. That hasn't come into evidence yet. But the commission was coming in, and then she arrived. Not by coincidence. Lori did not work during this time since she was with Charles. And then this is when Kay says the last time that she spoke to JJ was May 18th, 2019. Kay is the one who set all of this off. So I imagine Lori's not fond of Kay, right? She was the one insisting that she needed to see JJ. And she called everyone. She made a noise. And so someone would listen. And that's when they, in earnest, started looking for the children. And that kind of blew the lid off of everything, right? Because we know they prosecuted her first for the children. They had also killed Tammy. And then I think a month later, they got married. They ordered their wedding rings, the malachite, before the murder of Tammy, and then ran off to Hawaii after the murder of Tammy. And that's where we get that famous clip from Nate Eaton of like, where are the children? When they went looking for her. And Kay also said on the stand that once Charles was dead, she knew she had to get JJ away from Lori because he was not safe. So him not being safe and Kay not seeing him since May of 2019, I just wonder how that's sitting with the jury of like, well, where is he now, right? I don't think there's been enough there's not been enough testimony for them to yet question Tylee. But if I'm on the jury, listening to Lori's opening, knowing Tylee was there at the scene, I'm looking for Tylee to be a witness when Lori puts on her case in chief, right? The state may not want to do that. And I might be like, as a juror, but if Lori doesn't put up Tylee, I'm like, WTF is going on? So the things that were really cruel to me, the way that Kay found out her brother was murdered. She's sitting in a nail salon with one of her nieces getting her nails done. One of Charles's sons, I think it was Cody. It could have been Cody. I can't remember the other son's name. It's like the twins on the Sweet Life, but it's drawing a blank. Called and said, I just got a text from Lori that dad is dead. And she was like, that can't be right. That doesn't sound right. Let me call you back. Let me see what's going on. She calls her husband, Larry. Apparently, they end up Googling it to find out that Charles was shot. Googling it. You heard me right. Lori doesn't bother to text, to call, anything. Oh, and when the son was calling, Cody, I believe his name is, started calling when he got the text, because Lori didn't bother to pick up the phone. He's like calling, like, pick up the phone. She doesn't answer. So she tells his sons, hey, your dad died. And then he panics, calls his aunt, his dad's sister, and she's like, that can't be right. And then she calls her husband and they Google it. Same for, oh my goodness, for Adam. He also found out via Google because he hadn't heard from Charles. They were connecting. They were supposed to meet up in the city. Charles had purchased his plane ticket via airline miles to get him from, I think it's Kansas, to Arizona, and hadn't heard from him. he was talking to his friend and was like, it's really weird. And, it's not like he could ask his family because they had stopped talking to Charles, even though Charles was paying all their bills, cell phones, others sending them money. They had stopped talking to him. So it was really only Adam in contact with Charles. And then when he lost contact, he was mentioning it to his friend, like, I haven't seen him. I've been out here all this time. He said originally he thought, oh, he's spending time with JJ. That was his whole point of coming out here. His friend Googles it and was like, dude, your brother murdered him. Very odd way of communication. It points to consciousness of guilt to Lori. Again, we're in a circumstantial, hang on, let me see if I can talk Liberty off the ledge. Okay, I don't know what she's doing, but it reminding me that I did not play the intro is one of the things she's doing. See you on the other side. So let me get back to my notes. And she's quiet. Oh, spoke too soon. The second very cruel thing I thought was cruel for Kay. Lori sent her brother's remains via FedEx to her office. Had him cremated, put him in a box, sent to Kay's office, not even her home. I don't know how much colder it gets than that. I did find this clip of Chad calling the funeral home, which I also thought was weird. So Chad knew, you called him, but you didn't call any of Charles's family members. Does anybody else think that's odd? You called Chad. Chad's calling the funeral home. Let's listen.
Funeral home?
Hello, my name is Sarah. I'm assisting on the third call. How can I help you today?
We just had a death in the family, and we really don't want anything but a cremation, and then to send the cremains to a family in Louisiana. Just a simple, nothing other than a cremation and sending him to his family for a service in Louisiana. So, is there any way to know a ballpark price on that?
Yes, and I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Let me transfer you over to the director who can assist you with the pricing. What is your name, please?
It is Chad Daybell.
How do you spell the last name, please?
D-A-B-A-L, Daybell.
How are you related to the person who passed?
I'm his nephew.
And then also, this is for the Valley of the Suns in Chandler, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, he lives there in Chandler. I live in Iowa, so I'm just trying to help out.
Okay, thank you. Yes, what is your uncle's name for reference, please?
He is John Daybell.
His last name?
Well, D-A-B-A-L. The same. John.
Do you have a middle name?
Myron.
M-Y-R-O-N?
Yeah.
And Chad, what is your phone number in case we get disconnected?
Yeah. This number, 515, I don't actually know my own number. Let me look real quick.
Who doesn't know their own mobile number? I always get suspicious. They're like, I don't call myself, but you don't give it out?
515-402-0143.
Thank you. Is he at nursing home, hospital, or residence?
He passed away in a hospital. I don't know the details. I'm just calling.
Yeah, it's just for to know, because sometimes it's different if it's a residential or hospital or nursing home.
I'm thinking they're sending him to the medical examiner. I'm not sure. I should have had more information before I called. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Alright, cremation.
The coroner's office, the medical examiner's office.
Which city?
New Orleans. Mm-hmm.
Okay, one moment please, Chad, stay on the line. Let me transfer you over to the director who can assist you with that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Hello, Chad.
Yeah.
Thank you for holding. I do have the director, Carissa, on the line to further assist you.
Okay.
Thank you.
That beeping thing is on their side, like a Windows something. I'm on a Mac, so for sure it's not me.
Chad, my name is Carissa. I'm a funeral director with Vallow Daybell Mortuary and Cemetery. I understand that your uncle passed away.
Yes. And I'm just starting the process for the family. He didn't have many relatives. I'm his nephew. I live in Iowa. But what they want to do, yeah, sad to see him go. Yeah, I think he's going to the medical examiner. I don't know all the details, but what the family basically wants is just to have him cremated there in Chandler and then have his cremains shipped to New Orleans. And we'll go with the service later. So just trying to get a ballpark price.
Okay, so for a cremation, we are able to do our cremation for $1,699. Now, what that's going to include is the transportation and charge care, the transportation to and from our crematory, our basic professional fees, as well as our crematory fee. Now, there's going to be a couple other charges there for you. So we are going to have death certificates, which are 20 away fees with a processing fee. $15 permit fee. And then we're able to do that transfer through the mail for you, and that's $150 fee for you.
Okay. Like UPS or something, I guess.
Okay.
So close about 2,000 probably, in the ballpark. Yeah.
Close to that.
Okay. Well, that helps me a lot. I'm going to call one or two others, but I'll get back to you. We come that direction. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. If you need anything else, give me a call.
So what that was giving to me was get rid of the body for as cheap as possible. They need the death certificates, right? She needs the death certificates to initiate claims like for life insurance, Social Security, for JJ, all of those things. And so it just gave me the creep. So he knew, I think that was the day after. But Lori, so she calls Chad. She doesn't bother to call the sister. The jury doesn't know she's called Chad. I don't know if that's going to come in evidence, but you and I know that she called. And so I just think that that's creepy, about $2,000. And then he makes the joke, oh, is that like through UPS? Haha. She doesn't respond to that. I don't know if she heard him, but like, weirdo. What difference does it make? What did she say? The price was $150. Just like pay the money and move along. I don't know. He just creeps me out. Maybe because I know what I know. Also because of how he looks. What does Kathy call him? The thumb. So that's how Kay found out. And then the ashes were sent, like I said, via FedEx to her office. She was planning a memorial for him, right? Because that's her brother. The family is there. They want to, give him a good homegoing. And she had asked Lori if JJ could come to that memorial. And she said yes. And so Kay was going to arrange for him to come out from Arizona to Louisiana. What was it? Port Charles, I think it is, or St. Charles. I like the name of, or Lake Charles, one of those. or it's like Charles from All My Children. Something Charles, her brother's name, is where they live. And Lori agreed to that initially until she found out that Kay was now the beneficiary to the $1 million policy. And she was salty. So she was like, oh no, we have to go to Hawaii for some business. He's not going. It'll be too confusing for him. He needs to stay with me. Well, we know how that ended up, right? And she went on about her 5 children that didn't exist in her home that she had to care for and no money. She was mad about it. She said it to Kay. She sent her messages. In our last video, I showed you the clip when they were looking for the kids while she was in Idaho. The police came in and she was like, she got all the money. Consciousness of guilt. Everything she's uttering is like pointing to the fact that she was expecting that money. Okay, let's go into Adam's testimony at the trial, and we'll do a blow by blow here because I have thoughts. Okay, let's go into Adam's testimony at the trial, and we'll do a blow by blow here because I have thoughts. I have 2 cents that I want to give to you. Might be a little more than 2, but you know. Okay. Judge Smoldering looking good.
Sir, would you please introduce yourself to the jury?
My name is Adam Cox.
How old are you, Adam?
I just turned 56.
And what do you currently do for a living or for life?
I'm a pro pickleball player and instructor.
Where are you living now? Just what state?
I live in Arizona.
Back in July of 2019, where were you living?
Wichita, Kansas.
Okay. Prior to your pickleball career, did you have a different career?
I did.
What was that?
I was a radio morning show host.
Okay. Is that why you were in Wichita?
Yes.
Did that make you travel a lot?
Yes.
So I want to talk to you about your family first, okay?
Okay.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Southern California.
Okay. Do you have any siblings?
Yes.
How many?
5. Or
And
4 siblings.
can you tell us the names of the 5 siblings you had growing up?
Stacy, Alex, Lori, and Summer.
Okay. For Alex, did people refer to him as Al sometimes?
Yes.
And for Summer, did people call her Sum?
Yes.
Were your sisters Lori and Summer close?
Yes.
I want to ask you about another family member. Back in 2019, Melanie Boudreau. How is she related to your family?
Melanie is my oldest sister, Stacy's daughter. So she's my niece.
And was your sister Lori close with Melanie?
Yes.
Do you see your sister Lori in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Can you point her out and tell us what she's wearing?
She's sitting there wearing black blazer.
Honor, may the record reflect the witnesses identified the defendant.
Good job.
In July of 2019, was your sister married?
Yes.
Who was she married to?
Charles Vallow.
And so in July of 2019, was your sister known as Lori Vallow?
Yes.
Do you know approximately how long Lori and Charles were married?
I think over 10 years.
Okay. Do you know if your sister, since the passing of Charles, married Chad Daybell?
Yes.
Did your sister Lori, have any children from prior marriages before she and Charles got together?
Yes.
And who were those?
Colby and Tylee.
Okay. And were they from the same marriage?
Really quick, I want to just you see how the prosecutor's tying back to her opening statement when she said, do you know if your sister married Chad Daybell after Charles's passing? Also, did you guys notice Chad doesn't put 2 L's on the end of his name? I must be spelling it wrong. I thought it was Bell, Bell. Anyway, prosecution is tying back to her opening statement because one of the reasons that she had what the prosecution is alleging, one of the reasons that Lori had Charles murdered is because she wanted to become Mrs. Daybell. Oh, look, it also has 2 L's here. And so she's tying that, she's bringing into evidence, right, what she said in her opening. Now she can use that as a fact that can be said in her closing. I don't see Lori doing any of that. If you guys see it, please let me know, because I'm like, where is she going?
No.
By July of 2019, was Colby an adult?
Yes.
Do you have a son, Zach?
Yes.
Did your son, Zach, ever live with Lori and Charles for a bit?
Yes.
Did he move in there after Colby moved out.
Yes.
In July of 2019, was Lori's other daughter, Tylee, still under the age of 18?
Yes.
Do you know whether or not Charles helped raise Colby and Tylee?
Yes.
Did you know if Charles had any children from prior marriage?
Yes.
Do you know if do you know how many children he had from a prior marriage?
I think 2.
Okay. And do you know if either of those 2 children lived with Lori or Charles?
Visited. I don't know if they ever lived there.
Okay. Did Lori and Charles have any kids together?
JJ?
Was JJ adopted? Okay. So did they adopt him together?
Yes.
Okay. So in 2019, did Lori and Charles have just JJ and Tylee as their kids living with them?
Yes.
2
Did
kids.
Lori and Charles always live in Arizona?
No.
Where else did you know them to live?
Texas and Hawaii.
Okay. We had talked about your brother, Alex, or Al. Were you close with your brother, Alex?
Somewhat.
Do you know where Alex was living in July of 2019? What state?
Arizona.
And can you describe your brother Alex's relationship with your sister Lori? Were they close?
I mean, I don't know if close is the word I would use growing up, but
Describe
just
for us.
normal brother-sister relationship, I guess.
As they became adults, did they continue to be close, or what do you recall of their relationship?
Yeah, for the last, I guess 4 or 5 years.
So I want to say Adam is still in the faith of LDS. I would not classify like simulating sex acts with my sibling as normal. That seems inappropriately close and just boundaryless, if I dare say.
The last 4 or 5 years between them was what?
They were closer, they were close for like a year and a half, is what I remember.
Before this happened?
Yeah, they became oddly close for a while.
How about
Oddly.
the relationship between Charles and Alex? Do you recall what that was like?
Just a normal brother-in-law relationship, I guess.
Did you ever know them to do things just the 2 of them?
No, I don't have any knowledge of that.
Did your family sort of do a lot of big family events where everyone might be together?
Yes. Yeah.
Birthday meals, holidays?
Yes.
Adam, did you grow up a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints?
Yes.
And are you still a member of that?
Yes.
At some point, was your brother Alex excommunicated?
Yes.
Do you recall when that was?
I think he was excommunicated twice. So I'm not sure the dates or when that happened, but when he was an adult.
In 2019, was he still excommunicated to your knowledge?
Yes.
What does that mean to be excommunicated?
It means that you do certain things to where the church, it takes away your membership from the church.
Are you able to go to temple if you're excommunicated?
No.
Is that important?
Going to the church in our faith is important. Yes.
Let's talk about your relationship with Charles Vallow. Did you and Charles ever text?
Yes.
Did you and Charles ever talk on the phone?
Yes.
When Lori and Charles were married, were you aware that Charles would pay for things for the family, like cell phones?
Yeah, I heard that there's people in our family that they're on his business cell plan.
Or car insurance?
Don't know about car insurance, but
You knew about the cell phones.
yeah.
Did you know what Charles did for a living?
Yes.
What was it?
He sold insurance.
Did you know what kind of insurance?
No, he explained it one time, but he was doing something with school teachers or helping them with their situation.
Okay. Did you know whether or not Charles traveled a lot for work?
Yes.
Was he traveling to other states?
Yes.
And was that sort of throughout his marriage with Lori?
Yes.
Okay. Were you aware of whether or not your sister Lori worked prior to marrying Charles?
Yes.
Do you know what kind of work she did?
She was a hairstylist.
I am going to turn off the closed caption because I don't know he said she was a hairstylist. It says definitely summer is hot. I think it was. So I'm going to turn those off. Hopefully you'll be able to turn them on your end from my video and they'll be true.
After she married Charles, did she continue to work outside the home?
At a hair salon?
Yeah.
No, not that I know of.
Was it your understanding Charles worked so she could take care of the children?
Yeah, for the most part, yeah.
So you were unaware of her doing any sort of outside work like she had done prior to being married to him?
Yeah, I don't know any of that.
At some point, did you learn or become aware of the fact that Lori and Charles were having some marital problems?
Yes.
Just yes or no, did you ever talk to Charles about why he and Lori were having marital problems?
Yes.
You yourself personally, were you aware of Lori having any beliefs that were outside of what is accepted by the LDS religion?
Yes.
Can you tell us what you were aware of that you knew to be outside the LDS religion?
Lori told me that she was in the process of translating from a mortal human being to an immortal human being, a celestial state.
That's something that the LDS religion supports?
I haven't heard of it that it's happened here on Earth yet.
Did you ever hear her talking about being married to someone that is relevant in your religion?
Yes, I have heard that.
Did she tell that to you?
I don't know. I can't recall her telling me that, but I remember other people telling me that.
Okay. Was there anything else that you recall her telling you that she believed that seemed outside the LDS religion?
Yes. There was a time where she told me that she had more priesthood authority than the priesthood.
And why? Can you explain for us what that means? Why that was significant to you?
In our religion, the men hold the priesthood, and she said that she's in a state where she's above that.
Okay.
I didn't quite understand it, but very strange.
Did you confront her about these beliefs?
Confront her? No.
Did you discuss with her about these beliefs?
I just let her say what she wanted to say.
Was there ever a conversation where, when she was telling you these things, where she asked if you thought she was crazy?
Yes.
And how did you respond to that?
I said, I don't know if you're crazy, but what you're telling me is not true. It's not real.
After you said that, what happened to your relationship with Lori?
She stopped talking to me.
Were you ever aware of Lori believing that people could be dark or possessed by evil spirits?
I later have learned that, yes.
Did you ever try to tell your family about the beliefs that Lori had expressed to you?
Yes.
What was your family's reaction?
One of the reaction was, she's in a delusion, let her do whatever she's doing and she'll come out of it at some point.
How did this impact your relationship with your family when you're bringing up these concerns about Lori?
They basically cut me off.
So you bringing up your concerns about Lori's beliefs being at odds with the LDS religion sort of terminated your good relationship with your family?
Yes.
At the end of June of 2019, do you recall Charles sending?
Yeah, I know that he played minor league baseball.
And in this email was the person pretending to be Charles asking about writing a book about his career?
Yes.
Was that something you knew Charles was not interested in?
No, he's not, or wasn't.
After you saw those emails that Charles had forwarded to you, where someone was reaching out to Chad, were they inviting Chad out to Arizona?
Yes.
After reading that and getting that forward and talking with Charles, did you believe that Lori was having an affair with Chad Daybell?
Yes.
Did you and Charles spend time talking about that?
Yes.
Was he kind of, I guess, in a tailspin?
So again, tying it back to the opening, she was having an affair with Chad prior to the murder of Charles, further proving motive of getting rid of Charles so that she could become Mrs. Daybell.
I'm not sure the best words to say from learning that.
Yeah, he seemed a little desperate.
Did Charles have some idea on how he thought he might be able to get Lori back into the LDS faith?
Yes.
What did you understand that to be?
Charles just thought that Lori was going overboard and that she was going to the temple like 5 times a week, and that's not normal in our religion, and that she was going a little off the wall. So he figured.
Yeah, let's go out about that. how he found out.
Talk to any of your family about it? Were you still keeping that intervention thing secret from them at that point?
No, at that point, but I think my nobody had heard from. I asked if anybody had heard from Alex, and nobody said that they heard from Alex in my family. But at that point, I was there spending time with my son Zach, also to help Charles with what he wanted to try to get an intervention with Lori, and also to see my friend Eric, because I live in Wichita. So I was trying to do 3 things at one time on my short visit.
So on the 11th or 12th, though, were you still keeping that sort of secret that you and Charles had been wanting to do an intervention on Lori?
Yes.
You weren't telling your family, like, I don't know why we're not doing this.
Charles asked me not to tell anybody.
And was that actually sort of a message you guys had talked about of who in your family might prevent any type of intervention?
Yes.
And who in your family were you guys concerned with if they learned about the intervention might try to stop it?
Mom and Dad, Summer.
Alex too?
Alex, yes.
So even though you're here and you're seeing your family and you're seeing your son, you don't want to tell them a lot about Charles because you're trying to still keep that quiet in case he does want to go forward with it.
Exactly, yes.
So you're in Tucson and you start talking to your friend about Charles.
Yes.
Do you learn at some point that Charles has been killed?
Yes. I was talking with Eric saying something doesn't feel right. I haven't heard from Charles, and usually he would text me or send me a message or something. And then Eric asked me, he goes, well, what's his last name? And I said, Vallow. And he was on his computer and he just Googled Charles Vallow. And he said, it popped up that he's been killed by his brother-in-law.
So you learn this. What is going through your mind now?
Just everything, chaos. I just knot in my stomach. Just probably one of the worst feelings I've ever felt in my life.
Obviously, you had been concerned that something was being planned when you told Charles that on the morning of the 11th, right? But
well,
not that.
Not that, but yeah, it felt like something was off. That why Alex would be at Lori's house that morning.
Did you know your brother Alex to carry guns with him?
Yes.
Did he regularly go shooting with guns?
Yes.
Prior to Charles being shot and killed, did you ever tell Lori that you were going to be trying to do this intervention with her?
No.
Prior to Charles being shot, did you ever tell Alex, hey, I'm going to stay with you, but we're trying to do an intervention with Lori?
No.
What about your parents? Did you ever tell them you were going to try to do an intervention?
No.
Your sister Summer?
No.
So if your sister told detectives a couple hours after Charles was shot that she was confronting Charles about you and Charles talking and texting, it wasn't something that you told her about?
No.
You told us that you are LDS. Have you ever taught Sunday school?
Lori took Charles's phone, right? When he got there, that was the reason, or that was a tool to keep him in the house. And so not only did she take it, she was reading the messages and read the messages between her brother and her husband.
Yes.
Can you tell us about the story of Nephi?
Nephi?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Nephi was a prophet in the Book of Mormon. It's the first chapter. He was a prophet, very humble and faithful servant of the Lord. Ironically enough, his brothers tried to kill him at one point. But he actually ended up going to Jerusalem to get these plates back. And he was run off, came back, and then went back again because the Lord asked him to. And when he did, the King Laban, who was actually a wicked king, was laying on the ground drunk in front of him. And Nephi was told to kill Laban.
Who was he told by?
The spirit, or God.
So God was using a Holy Spirit to tell him to kill Laban, and
Yes.
did he?
Yes, he did.
Was that something he anguished over?
Yes.
But ultimately, it was a justified killing.
Yes.
Again, tying it back to the opening, she started with, I need you to stay close to me, right? In her opening statement, we will be like Nephi. So this is the story of Nephi, so the jury can connect it. They may not be LDS. They may or may not. I don't think you can ask them that during voir dire. But I guess Megan was saying there's visible signs, like if they have tattoos or long hair, they're more likely to not be LDS than to be. But they're she's tying everything back to that opening, so we know she can nail it in the closing.
So was the concept,
because it's opening statements, it's closing arguments. You can only argue what you brought into evidence in your case in chief, or that came in during the opponent's case in chief.
that it was better for Nephi to kill this one evil man and sort of benefit the nation and his descendants?
Yes.
So Charles is the evil man that they killed.
Were you aware that your sister had told people that Charles was possessed by evil spirits?
Yes.
Were you aware that your sister had told people that your brother-in-law Charles was dark?
Objection. Calls for hearsay.
It's whether or not he was aware of it.
Whether or
Yes
not
or
he's
no?
aware, he can answer yes or no.
Yes.
Laura's
When you and Charles
struggling
were
with
talking about
hearsay.
this intervention, were you trying to help your sister come back to mainstream LDS beliefs?
Yes.
So it wasn't just Charles, but also her.
Yes.
You told us that your friend had Googled and learned that Charles was killed. Did you know at that time it was by your brother Alex?
That's what the article said. So yes, he told me that.
What did you do after you learned that?
Freaked out for a little bit, cried, didn't know what to do. Thought my world was coming apart. Then I got angry a little bit, and then called my.
Okay, we're going to take a comfort break, and then we'll be back. We're back. Isn't that great whole music? I'm always bebopping. Okay, let's get back into it.
I think first thing I did, I called Kay, who's Charles's sister, and asked her, because she's the only one that I felt safe calling after knowing my family was involved in this or thinking of this, that I asked her if she knew that Charles was dead, and she said she just learned of it too.
Did you learn from your friend when? Because it's now the 13th when you learned this, right?
Yes.
Did you learn when that happened?
Yes, I did.
So you knew on that Saturday, the 13th, that Charles had been killed that morning
Yes.
of July 11th.
Yes.
Did you ever come back to Phoenix and confront anyone in your family about this or talk to them about it?
Yes. After I talked to Kay, then I called my mom and asked her if she knew that Charles was dead. And she said yes. And I said, what's going on? And she said, you tell me what's going on. And at that point, I thought that was bizarre that she would say that. So I said, well, we need to sit down and talk. And she said, yes, we do. And so me and Zach got in the car and drove back to Phoenix.
Did you go to your mom's house?
Yes, I did.
Did that conversation go well?
No.
Did this create a break in your relationship with your mom?
Yes.
Did you stick up for Charles?
Yes.
Did sticking up for Charles create issues between you and most of your family?
Yes.
Did you continue to stick up for Charles even with that happening?
Yes.
After you had that argument with your mom, what did you do?
Me and Zach left her house and we were staying at Summer's house, my sister, who was away on vacation. And we were staying at her house and we went back to her house. We were watching her dog.
You were supposed to leave the next morning, Sunday, to go back to Wichita. Did you return back home?
Yes, we did.
Did your son go with you this time?
Yes, he did.
After this whole incident happened, did you not talk with your family for a long time?
Yes.
Did it cause a lot of friction in your family?
Yes.
Have you started to try to talk with your family some?
Yes.
I have no other questions, Your Honor.
Cross.
Mr. Cox, how long has it been since we've seen each other in person?
Don't know.
When was the last time you saw me?
I don't recall.
So, has it been a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 6
Something like
years,
that.
7 years, 8 years?
Something.
Okay. So, you have no idea.
Nope.
So this is what I'm saying. This is pointless when the last time he saw her was, and she's potentially opening the door, because what if he's like, oh, I remember it was right before you got arrested. Do you know what I mean? Like, the jury's not meant to know that. He's careful enough. Like, you can tell he's been coached, like the way he's answering a yes or no question with a yes or no. There was one time he got off track and Sheena K brought him back. But what difference does it make when the last time the two of them saw each other toward her defense?
You have no idea when the last time you saw me in person.
I don't know the year or how many years it's been.
Okay. So, did you see me at Colby's wedding in January 2018?
No, I was not there.
You didn't come to Colby's wedding.
No, I did not.
So, did you see me sometime that year at my house
Possibly.
where Colby got married? That house.
I did see you at that house. Yes.
At least one time.
Yes.
So, possibly in 2018.
Yes.
And when was the last time we had any communications?
The last time I remember our communications was you and I were speaking in the kitchen when the family was over.
Okay. So you think that was that time in 2018?
I think so.
Okay. And were we eating my green chili chicken enchiladas?
Do not remember that.
You do not remember that?
Nope.
Is that what I made every time we had a family get together, which was like 10 times a year?
I don't remember that.
Okay. And when was the last time that we had a phone call or text message?
I have no idea.
Could it possibly be around that exact same time?
Possibly.
Okay. So that was possibly in early 2018?
Yes.
Okay. Who do you think initiated the final communication in our relationship?
Who concluded it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So right now it's 2025, is that correct?
Yes.
And so we haven't spoken in about 8 years. Would that be correct?
It's probably 7 or 8 years.
Okay. So would you say up until that point that how often would we communicate before that?
Before what?
Before 2018?
Probably on a regular basis. Once a month, twice a month, 3 times a month.
Like a call or a text message?
Yes.
Just keeping in touch?
Yes.
You know of us living in Hawaii and you were living in Kansas at the time?
Yes.
What
And in your
difference?
career, you lived in lots of different places. Is that correct?
Yes.
Austin,
Yes.
Dallas,
Yes.
New York,
Yes.
Wichita,
Yes.
Sacramento.
Yes.
Did I miss anything?
Others?
And I was in Texas,
Yes.
Arizona,
Yes.
Hawaii.
Yes.
So would you say that we were not physically close during the past 20 years?
Yes, I would say that.
So our communication would be solely family get-togethers, occasional text messages. Is that correct?
And phone calls, yes.
Okay. So, Mr. Cox, did you?
She also uses distancing language. She calls him Mr. Cox. Remember when she talked about Alex, it was always my brother, my brother, my brother.
So, Mr. Cox, did you see or hear or personally witness me conspire with my brother Alex Cox to murder my husband Charles Vallow?
Repeat that again.
Okay. Did you see with your eyes or hear with your ears or personally witness me conspire with my brother Alex Cox to murder my husband Charles Vallow?
No.
Thank you. No more questions.
Redirect.
Before she gets into it. So that is the line. Did you see or hear, right? Because again, Lori is very literal in the way she's thinking about it. And so if there's no like direct evidence, she somehow thinks she's exonerated from it. Nobody has to see. There are plenty of conspiracy. Look at Charles Adelson, where there's not direct evidence. And so I just think it's a redundant question. Pedantic. I think it's a pedantic question. She thinks she's doing something and it's giving a big fat nothing.
Have you talked to your sister since Charles was shot and killed?
No.
So since that happened, you cut off all communications with her?
Yes.
Prior to that, you were being asked about 2018 being at Lori and Charles's house. Was that the time where Lori told you she was becoming a celestial being?
Yes.
And the time where she was telling you other ideas that were not in line with the LDS faith?
Yes.
After you had heard those statements by your sister, you told us that she had asked you if you thought she was crazy, right?
Yes.
And you had responded back how?
I don't know if you're crazy, but what you're telling me is not true.
After you told her that her beliefs were not true, did that sort of end your talking with her?
Yes.
You were asked if you personally saw, heard your sister Lori conspire to kill Charles. Were you there that morning?
No.
Were you the person who was supposed to, though, be with Alex on the 10th into the morning of the 11th? You spent the night with him?
If I would have spent the night with him, yes.
So that stood out to you because you had made plans with your brother, right?
Yes.
And instead, you learned he was at Lori's house.
Yes.
You told us that you thought it was odd that your brother would be over at your sister's house at 7:30 in the morning.
Yes.
And you were aware that your brother had guns.
Yes.
Charles was going there to pick up JJ, right?
Yes.
And so did it seem odd to you that your brother would bring a gun that was loaded with extra magazines that was not safe to your sister's house where JJ was?
Objection, out of scope. This is not
Goes
just
to
a
the conspiracy.
redirect. This is not just a redirect.
Hey, I didn't ask for argument. Okay. The objection's overruled.
So I think had she not been so, I don't know if that's the right word, hennish, peckish. It's not like she kept going on. She didn't wait for him to respond. I think he may have considered it longer, but I think he just wanted her to shut up. And so he went on. That's my opinion. Of course, as a judge, I'm sure he can discriminate like between this is annoying versus this is the law. But that is what it was giving me. Anybody else?
What's the question?
Sure. Did it stand out to you that your brother, who knew JJ, would bring a loaded gun and extra ammunition to the house where JJ was running around?
Well,
It
I didn't know at the time.
Yeah.
You're saying afterwards?
Yeah, you learned afterwards your brother killed him, right?
Yes.
And we're talking about this conspiracy and things that are going on. Did that seem odd to you that your brother would bring a loaded gun and extra ammunition in this unsafe way to a house where your sister's son, JJ, lived?
Yeah, it seems extreme.
When you were talking to your family after this happened, did you actually tell them that you believed that Lori and Alex had conspired to kill Charles?
Yes.
Why was that?
Because Lori had told people that Charles was no longer living, that some guy named Ned was inside of his body, that there was a zombie living inside of him. And Alex didn't respond to any of my text messages when I was supposed to be with him. And he was at that house that morning. Lori talking crazy about how she's a translated being. All these things all added up into that moment and that morning. Once I found out on Saturday that Charles was shot and killed, no doubt in my mind that they killed him. That's a feeling that I got.
And you told your family that?
Yes.
No other questions?
The last line of questioning from the possession of the gun on, I think the defendant's right, was technically beyond the scope of her cross. So based on that, I'll allow the defendant, if she wants to recross on those issues, if she elects to, may do so now.
No questions, Your Honor.
All right. Are there any questions from any member of the jury? Not seeing any, sir, you can step down.
When the women, every time the women are asked their age, they go, my age? The men just answer the question. I think it's funny. You're not supposed to ask a lady her age, except in court, I guess.
All right. Go and have a seat to my left.
She makes a joke to the prosecutor, probably to help her with her nerves. Nice smile from both of them.
Would you please introduce yourself to the jury?
My name is Kay Woodcock. Charles Vallow's younger sister.
How old are you?
How old am I today?
Today.
64.
And are you married?
Yes.
Where do you currently live?
Lake Charles, Louisiana.
Lake Charles, that
I'm
was
going to
it.
talk to you about your siblings. You told us that you are Charles's sister. How many siblings were there in your family?
6.
And where did Charles fall into that?
He was number 3.
Who are the other siblings?
My oldest sister, Terry, then my next sister, Susan, then Charles, then Jerry, then me, then Bobby.
And where did you guys grow up?
We're in Lake Charles.
Okay. Were you close with your brother?
Yes, I was.
Did you know his wife, Lori Vallow?
Yes, I do.
Can you point her out in the courtroom and tell us what she's wearing?
She's the defendant over there in the black jacket.
Your Honor, may the record reflect the witness has identified the defendant.
Mitchell.
She pointed at
I want
her
to
like
talk to
she
you
was
sort of about Lori and Charles.
She pointed at her like she was pointing at something despicable. The defendant over there. Go ahead, Miss Kay.
Were you at their wedding?
No, they went to Las Vegas.
Do you recall what year they got married?
2006.
That's at least Lori's second Las Vegas wedding, because I know when I was watching this in the comments, some people were like, well, she was already married 3 times and probably didn't want to make it fancy. Her very first wedding was in Vegas, according to Alex's ex-wife, not his widow, but his ex-wife. When Lori was 18, she had eloped, and then Barry, the dad, forced her to get an annulment.
Did they have a reception that?
I don't know if that's what you'd call it, but there was a family gathering in March of 2006 at a ranch in near Austin, Texas, that we all went to.
Okay, kind of to celebrate that?
Yes.
Had your brother Charles been married before?
Yes.
Did he have any children from his prior marriage?
Yes.
How many?
2.
And who were they?
Cole Vallow and Zach Vallow.
And did you know if Lori had any children from a prior marriage?
Yes. Colby Ryan and Tylee Ryan.
When Lori and Charles got married, did Charles's 2 sons live with them?
Live with Charles and Lori?
Yeah.
No.
Did they stay with their mother?
Yes, they did. They visited, but they never lived there.
Where were they? Was that in Arizona or still in Texas?
In Austin.
So that's the second person. Well, Kay says it definitively. The kids that Charles's sons did not live with them. And Adam said he didn't believe they did. So that's the second time it's been said they didn't live there, despite Lori saying she had 5 children to take care of after Charles's passing.
I want to ask you sort of some of the ages of the children involved. In July of 2019, was Tylee still a minor?
Yes.
So she was still living with them.
Yes.
In July of 29, do you know if Colby was still a minor?
Yes. Oh, wait, no, Colby was not.
He was an adult.
He was an adult.
And in July of 2019, were Charles's two sons, Cole and Zach, still minors or adults?
They were adults.
Okay. Did Charles and Lori have any children together?
They adopted my grandson, JJ.
And can you tell us how that worked out?
How that worked out,
Or
meaning
how did they get involved in adopting your grandchild?
You see how quick the prosecutor jumped in there, because it worked out is that Lori murdered him, but she didn't want to go there. So, but it feels like Kay was like, how did it work out in terms of, I'm going to rewind it just so you can see the prosecutor realized immediately and jumped in. I don't think Kay was going to say anything incorrect, but I just like that sense of like, do you know what you're asking me?
Did you know his wife, Lori Vallow?
yes, I.
In July of 29, do you know if Colby was still a minor?
Yes. Oh, wait, no, Colby was not.
He was an adult.
He was an adult.
And in July of 2019, were Charles's two sons, Cole and Zach, still minors or adults?
They were adults.
Okay. Did Charles and Lori have any children together?
They adopted my grandson, JJ.
And can you tell us how that worked out?
How that worked out,
Or
meaning
how did they get involved in adopting your grandchild?
Charles approached me about it one day. He called, and I mean, there was a lot of stuff going on, and so I kept it in mind.
And do you recall when did they adopt JJ?
It was final in July of 2014.
How old was he then?
He was 2.
Okay. Did JJ have any special needs?
Yes, he was autistic, and he was born 10 weeks premature.
Okay. So he took a little extra care.
He did, absolutely.
Do you recall, so if he was 2 and they adopted him, how old was he in July of 2019?
He was 7. We spent his 7th birthday together in Lake Charles.
So in July of 2019, to your knowledge, Lori and Charles still had 2 children under the age of 18 with them, Tylee and JJ?
Yes.
So if in July of 2019, Lori Vallow was saying she had 5 kids she was taking care of, you were unaware of the other 3?
There were not 5 there, no. There were 2.
Can you tell us about the relationship between Charles and JJ?
Charles was the best dad. I mean, he was always doting on him. The arrangement I figured out eventually was that if Charles was working out of town, Lori had him all by herself. And so when Charles got back to town, JJ was his to take care of 100%.
Would Charles bring JJ to visit your side of the family in Louisiana?
Oh, yes.
Did you regularly see him?
Yes. Once JJ learned how to fly, and excuse me, once JJ learned how to fly, and that he was, because he was autistic, something like that is a big deal for him, and he loved it. So he was a little flyer. He loved to go in the airplane.
What did your brother Charles do for a living?
He sold annuities. He was a financial planner.
And how long did you know him to do that?
If I had to guess, 20 years, I guess.
Did he work for others or have his own business? What do you recall?
He had his own business.
Had he previously any times ever worked for others?
Yes.
Okay. But in July of 2019, he had his own business.
Yes.
Did he have a business partner?
He did, yes.
Did his job require him to travel a lot?
He did. He would be gone 3 or 4 days a week on average. Sometimes he didn't have to travel, but he was just, but yeah, he would be gone 3 or 4 days a week when he would be working.
I want to ask you a little bit about Charles. Was he sort of a meticulous person when it came to paperwork?
Oh, yes. I mean, for when you're doing that type of work, you have to be meticulous and methodical, and you can't make any errors. No, you can't miss a dot or crossing a T, because it will get kicked back to you, and then it just causes a lot of delay and a lot of trouble. So he was actually, he said there was never anybody I've ever trusted to do this for me. And I was like, well, I'll do it for you. Cause,
All right, we'll stop here.
yeah.
So
She skipped ahead.
when
there.
Charles was working in as financial planner, do you know if he had Lori help him with any part of his job?
I don't really know exactly what she did, but yes,
Okay.
but I don't know what she did.
Prior to Charles being a financial advisor, did he have a very different career in sports?
Oh, he was, he quit. I don't know if, I don't remember because I was quite young then, but he did, I believe he was drafted in the early 70s into the Houston Astros minor league.
So when you were growing up, did you see your brother playing baseball?
I was raised at a baseball field. If it wasn't Charles, Jerry played for years, my other brother, but Charles stuck with it. And that's how I got to college with a degree, with a scholarship.
So you got stuck many a night and a weekend having to be at the ball field with your brother.
Yes.
What position did your brother play?
He was a pitcher. He was very, very good. He was a left-handed pitcher, and they're very hard to hit against.
Okay. Did he bat right or left-handed?
He was left-handed.
Did you do everything left-handed?
Yes.
After your brother, let me ask you, do you know how long he played in the semi-pro?
I don't. He had moved to Houston.
So there's someone who knew Charles his entire life and said he was left-handed. He batted left-handed and he pitched left-handed. Whoops. Here we go.
And but he blew out his knee, and that's ended that right there.
Did your brother stay in shape after that, even though he blew out his knee?
Oh yes, he was always doing something. Always bike riding, hiking, just anything. Gym, all that. You know, he was very active.
So every time you saw him, he was taking care of himself.
Yes.
I'm going to ask you a little bit about religion. Did your family grow up in the LDS Church or faith?
No, we did not.
Did you know Charles ever convert to the LDS faith?
He did at some point during his marriage to Lori.
Okay. When Lori and Charles were married, did they always live in one state or did they move?
No, they lived here in Phoenix, in the Phoenix area, Chandler, Gilbert, and then they moved to Hawaii in 2014, and they moved back late 2016, early 2017.
Back here
to Phoenix area.
Do you recall where they were, what state they were in when they met?
When Charles and Lori met?
Yeah.
They were in Texas.
Texas, okay. In 2018 and 19, you told us that Charles and JJ would come visit you and the family regularly.
Yes.
In March of 2018, did you have a member of your family pass away?
Yes, my mother did in March of 18.
Did Charles come out for that?
Yes, he did. He was there for her services. Lori was not. And we felt like something was going on. Well, actually, my husband felt it before I did. And then when she didn't show for my mother's funeral.
See, that could have been an objection to hearsay, even though she said he felt. He's not testifying, but, also March of 2018. So this also alludes to perhaps the affair had already started. There's definitely strain in the relationship, right? And we know it happened at some point in 2018. But it sounds like potentially March. Like, why wouldn't you go to your mother-in-law's funeral? No matter how you felt about your mother-in-law, you would want to go and support your spouse, right? Unless there's something going on.
I just thought that was just appalling. It appalled me that she wouldn't even come to something like that with her husband.
What was your relationship like with Lori?
Because of the work I did, the company we owned, I was on the phone an extreme amount of time, all the time. So I really don't like to call people. I'm not a phone person. I'll text you all day long, but I really don't like to talk. And so Lori and I never really had a big phone relationship. It was a text here and there. But mostly Charles would keep me up to date as to, different things that were going on or, what they were up to. Or Charles would call. Yeah, Charles would call me mostly.
So it sounds like you weren't close with her.
When Lori and I were together, it was like we hadn't missed a minute. And we just took up where we left off. And she's very outgoing, and she's very friendly and very easy to talk to. And so we got along rather well, and I loved her.
Past tense.
So continuing in 2018, do you recall seeing Charles and JJ coming out to visit you guys in October of 2018?
Yes.
What was that for?
Just a weekend visit.
Okay. What about in November of 2018? Did you see Charles and JJ then?
We did. My husband and myself and my granddaughter, we went to Las Vegas, and Charles and JJ met us there for the Thanksgiving holiday weekend.
Fun.
I thought that was odd. He wasn't with his family. He said Lori was sick or Tylee was sick is what he told us, but it just, I mean, he just wouldn't share what all was going on at that point. Then when he finally did, he unloaded it all.
So this is November of 2018.
So in 2018, did you have any idea there were any, let me say this, in 2018, did you have some concerns about their relationship?
Yes, it was, for him to come as often as they were coming was odd, and just, he was just unsettled, and we knew something was going on, but he would never say. So he helped us when he was ready.
When we get into 2019, did you start to see your brother more?
Yes.
First, without going into what Charles said, did you ever become aware finally that his marriage with Lori was in trouble?
Yes, I did.
In 2019, again, without going into what Charles said, did you ever believe that Charles was concerned for his safety?
Charles was absolutely concerned for his safety. Lori had sent me a text, I think it was on a Thursday, that she and Charles were fighting because of some stuff she came up with, and that she and JJ and Tylee were at a hotel. Well, I guess Tylee was, I'm not sure. And because she didn't want to have any fighting, so they went to a hotel. And I came out. I knew Charles the next day. That's when she sent it to me. And then I just really didn't. I didn't call Charles. I knew he'd call me, and he sure enough did. And he was a mess. And so I flew out the next day out here to help him with JJ, and just to come and talk to him and see what was going on. He was alone, and Lori's family turned their backs on him and JJ. Okay.
Let's just kind of break it all down.
All right.
The family turned their backs on Charles and JJ, who was 7 or about to be 7. I don't know exactly when his birthday was, but how do you turn your back on a 6, 7-year-old?
You got a lot that you remember. So you said that you got a text from Lori indicating that she and JJ and Tylee were at a hotel.
Mm-hmm.
And then you said that Charles then called you maybe the next day.
Yeah.
And you came out here to Arizona.
Yes.
When you came out here to Arizona, did you become aware at that point that there was a big problem now with their relationship?
There was a huge problem now with their relationship.
And during this time when you had come out here, do you remember approximately when that was?
It's like the 1st of February of 2019, or the 2nd. It was right in there.
When you came out here, did you then speak with Charles about his concerns for his safety? Just yes or no?
About his what?
His concerns for his safety.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
That's just yes. Is this the time where, well, let me ask it this time. When you came out here, did you see Lori?
No.
When you came out here, did anyone know where Lori was?
No, nobody was talking about where she was. Nobody would tell Charles where she was.
So your brother was trying to find where she was?
Yes, he was.
Where was JJ this time?
He was with Charles, and that's one of the reasons I came out was to help him with JJ, because he was quite a handful, and Charles was a mess. He was broken. He was a broken-hearted man.
Oh.
So you come out here. Charles has JJ. Where's Tylee? Do you know?
She's, as far as we knew, she was staying at Lori's brother's. That's what we knew then.
Okay. Did you have any interaction with her?
So Alex's
No.
house, and he's a long haul.
Did Charles?
Sorry, he's a long haul truck driver, which I don't know if that's a common thing for Arizona folks, because one of my sisters, one of the older ones, a twin, was doing truck driving. She stopped nursing to do that. Then she's gone back to nursing. Something wonky with the paychecks, and actually, you know what? Let me take that back. I don't know if he was a long haul. It sounds like it from what Adam says, is that he would be gone for a long time. But then Adam also said he would be gone on like Colombia on sex tourism. So at any rate, Tylee was at Alex's house. That's when she got the bat for protection.
Have JJ where he's looking for Lori and can't find her?
Well, that portion of the time was 58 days, and I knew how many days it was because every day Charles would say something. He would tell me.
He was counting them.
He would count them.
Were you out here the whole time? What'd you do?
I could work remotely at the time, so I did stay out here a lot, often, but I would fly back. I was back and forth between Louisiana and here from February until the end of March, because at that point we moved Charles to Houston.
Okay. So the end of March, you said you were moving Charles to Houston. Was that with JJ?
Yes.
Why are you helping to move to Houston?
Because Charles told me that Lori did not want JJ anymore, or Kylie, or him. And I said, okay, well.
Oh, I didn't catch that the first time. So she said didn't want JJ or Tylee or him. Lori told this to Charles. No hearsay objection. I think this is an exception, but I'm surprised she's still not trying to say something. And also spectators who've since reported out what happened that day. This is when they noticed Lori visibly shaking.
Well, look, what if you move to Houston and I'll be 2.5 hours away? And when you go out of town, I'll come and stay with JJ. And so he was talking about hiring a nanny. And I said, no, I will be the nanny and I'll come and take care of him when you have to work. And it's easy enough. And you won't have to pay a penny.
So when Charles has JJ, you're helping take care of JJ in this time period in February, March?
Yes.
What about Charles's business? Did you help with that at all?
Yes. I had to get my arms around the whole thing. All the payments that needed to be made, the accounts, the emails, all that stuff you have to change over and change the password and all that. So Lori couldn't access it any longer.
You said you had your own job. What were you doing at that time in addition to helping your brother?
My husband and I owned a coastal crew change. It was a transportation company for the offshore oil and gas and LNG industry.
Okay. So you're trying to work that job and help Charles with his business.
Yes. I had a really great assistant who helped me an awful lot.
Do you remember when you were packing up to move Charles to Houston?
Yes.
You there?
I was there.
Did Lori show back up?
She did. I was in the pantry in the kitchen, packing up the pantry, and I don't know what, just something caught my attention, and I walked out and she was standing there. She had her back to me. Charles was sitting at the table on his phone, and he obviously didn't realize that she was there. And then finally, when he hung up, he looked up and there she was, and he started crying and she started yelling.
Do you recall what she was yelling about?
That, why did you take JJ? Why did you take JJ? Why did you take him out of school? Why are you moving? What are you doing? All this is your fault. It was just ridiculous.
So she'd been gone for 58 days, leaving.
No contact whatsoever.
And then she shows up at the house when you guys are moving out.
Yeah.
What was...
And demanding answers about why JJ is out of school. Ma'am, you have not a foot to stand on, a leg to stand on, whatever the expression is. You've been gone for 58 days and you want to know why they're doing what now? And you said you didn't want him or the children. What?
Charles's demeanor reaction. You said he was crying?
He was at first, but then he was just trying. Charles was a very soft-spoken man, and he was just trying to get a word in edgewise. And finally, Lori settled down a little bit, and they went and they talked for a while in the living room, or I guess it's like a great room. And then they moved to the bedroom to talk, and I could still hear every now and then Lori would get a little loud, but they were talking. And then I remember that Lori came. Let's see, I was sitting at the dining table, and she stood next to me and she said, "I love you, KK." And I said, "Well, I love you too. I'm sorry this is happening." And she cried, and I didn't know what to do really. So, I just was there. And then she walked off, and the next day she came. I don't know who came, but they got Kylie's belongings out of the casita where all of Kylie's belongings were. And I don't remember if she got anything of hers. I really don't remember.
Okay.
Which is weird because she left Tylee with Alex, but all of her things were still at the house. But her mom is gone for over 2 months. In total, I think it's over 70 something days, but she's counting it out because she did 56 and then 2 days later, 58. So it just she was totally absent. She had no kids and no responsibility. We know she had no job.
Unless Chad is her new job.
So are we now talking at the end of March, beginning of April of 2019 when Charles is moving back to Houston?
Yes.
Did he bring JJ with him?
Yes. Well, in order for me and Charles to move in, Larry, I flew out here and brought JJ back to Louisiana with me. And then my husband, Larry, kept him for a week while I flew back here to help Charles pack and then drive back to Houston.
All right. So you guys rented a big truck and drove it?
He drove the U-Haul. I drove his pickup.
All right.
Wow.
When you and Charles got to Houston, then did your husband bring JJ back?
Yes, he did.
Through all of this time with Charles, when he was looking for Lori while she was gone for those 58 days, did he still want Lori to be part of JJ's life?
He did. He did. He never was trying to take that away from Lori, even though Lori didn't want him anymore. I still didn't. I never really understood that, but I guess he was just hoping for the best. But yes, he absolutely wanted her to be part of his life, Lori's life.
So once Charles moved to Houston, did Lori ever also move out there?
I don't know if you call it moved out there, but she did. She came that day on March 28th. Charles said, look, we're moving to Houston. You're welcome to come. I'll fly you out Sunday. And she said, no, I'm busy. I have a project or something she was doing in Hawaii. She said, it'll be about 2 weeks and I'll be in Houston. So whatever she did, she was gone for 2 more weeks. It was a total of 72 days, I believe she was going all together. And then she was there. She and Tylee moved in at Charles's, and Charles said that she slept in JJ's room with him.
The first 2 weeks when Charles and JJ are in Houston without Lori, were you ever there to help with JJ or Charles' business?
No, Lori was there. JJ was
before she moved there. The 2 weeks.
Oh, I think. I had to go home for a little while, but Charles came like the weekend. So if I wasn't here, he was there.
Okay. So once you drove him there, you may have stayed to help him, and then you went home.
Yeah.
And you weren't there when Lori came to Houston.
No.
She might as well said hell no.
You had been helping your brother with his business, and I think you'd said something about changing passwords.
Yeah.
Was that to different financial accounts?
Right. Credit card, bank, stuff like that. Yeah. The password to Google, the password to,
all the things you use for business.
Yeah, yes.
And so when you started helping him, you had changed a lot of those passwords.
Yes.
I think they changed everything but the Google password, because the malachite gemstone rings for the wedding were purchased on Charles's Amazon account, unless he added her back later, but they were charged on his Amazon account using his credit card for her wedding rings for her new husband.
At some point, did you become aware at some point did Charles stop asking you to help him with the business?
He did, and that's when Lori came back.
Okay. Now, you said that your brother worked in annuities, right?
Yes.
Right? That last part of the time when you were working with him up through sort of the end of March, beginning of April, were you aware of Charles coming into a large amount of money?
He was receiving an annuity. What do you call it? I can't think of the word right now, but he was receiving like $125,000 check for his commission for annuities, and Lori obviously knew that because she was there just a few days before that came into the bank. That was deposited into the bank. I had access to the bank, so I would watch that.
Okay. So even though Lori came back, you still had the passwords to look into Charles's account?
Yes.
Do you know how long Lori stayed in Texas with Charles?
It's like she wasn't there the entire time, but she was always traveling through May. I'll say towards the end of May. I'm not for sure exactly what day.
Okay. So at some point, a couple months later, you become aware that she has left Houston?
Yes.
Did you know where she went?
Yeah, she was back here.
Did JJ come with her when she moved back here to Arizona?
He did.
And did you know, did your brother move back here?
No, he did not.
And with your access to the finances, were you aware whether or not Charles was paying for a house here in Arizona for Lori and JJ?
I really don't recall seeing that transaction. I really don't, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen. At that time, I was selling my company, and so I had a lot going on at that time, and that's when it was really getting, the due diligence. The company was doing their due diligence, so I had to provide a lot of information for them, and so it really was perfect timing because I got super busy with my company, and I didn't have to deal with all of Charles's because Lori was back. Or
let me ask you something else. Were you aware of when Charles met Lori, or they got married? Do you know if she worked?
She was a hairdresser. She did work as a hairdresser, and I don't know exactly when she quit working, but I don't think she worked long if she did after they got married.
Okay. So for most of the time when you knew them to be married, you did not see her working outside the home?
No.
did Charles, I guess, work so she could stay home with the kids?
Yes, he was fine with being a one income, letting her stay home, tend to the kids, and he would be the moneymaker.
I know that we've talked about Charles working in the area of financial planning. Did you know if Charles had a life insurance policy?
Yes.
That's something that, how did you learn about that?
Well, I mean, he had told my husband Larry and I years ago, he helped us acquire $1 million life insurance policy on, for me and my husband each. And because he always had one and Lori had one. So that was nothing new or unusual to talk about.
Okay. At some point when you were helping Charles, when Lori had disappeared and Charles didn't know where she was, did you have a conversation with Charles about the beneficiary of his life insurance?
Yes. It was early February when I came here to help him with JJ, and he said, look, I'm going to change. I'm going to take Lori off as beneficiary, and I'm going to put you as a beneficiary. And I was like, we talked about maybe a minute and a half about it. And I was like, okay, whatever. I really don't want to be that person, but okay. And I never followed up to see if he changed. I didn't know until I got the phone call after he was killed.
So the discussion you had of that change was during that time period when he couldn't find Lori, he had no idea where he was, and he was taking care of JJ?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And you were helping him take care of JJ?
Yes.
So if something had happened to Charles during that time when Lori wasn't around, would you have taken care of JJ?
Yes, he would have come back to me and my husband.
So I want to kind of go to right around that July time period. Do you recall when was the last time you saw your brother, Charles?
That's a good question. Probably must have been in June.
And do you recall where that was, or
I think he came to Lake Charles for the weekend.
Did you see JJ then?
Yeah, no. The last time I saw JJ was May 18th.
When was the last time you recall speaking or texting with your brother, Charles?
He texted me the night before he was shot, and just, hey, I'm going to be in Phoenix tomorrow, and how's it going? And just a little short text, and I'm boarding the plane now, and I'll be back in Phoenix in a little bit. And then he told me a few other things he had planned, but that was not much, not a big deal.
Did you think he was going to Phoenix to just see JJ?
Yes.
Did you know anything about any type of intervention?
No, he never talked. If he did talk to me about it, and I'm pretty sure I would have remembered that. But no, I know that he and Adam was his confidant during that time, Lori's brother. And so I know that whatever he was doing, Adam was part of it. And, they were just, I knew he was in good hands with Adam, because Adam, they loved Charles, him and his wife.
Do you have any knowledge of Charles wanting to get a place here in Phoenix so he could be closer to JJ?
I don't remember that, but I can't remember that. I mean, I don't know.
Okay, that's okay. I want to talk to you then about, so you talked to your brother, just kind of normal stuff as he was, before he got here to Phoenix. How did you learn that your brother Charles was dead?
It was on July the 12th. I was at a nail salon in Lake Charles, my granddaughter and I got a call from his oldest son, Cole. And he said, hey, what is going on? I just got a text from Lori, and she said, Dad's dead. And I said, wait, what did you just say? And he told me again. And I was like, something's wrong with that. That can't be true. And I said, have you tried to call her? And Cole's like, yeah, she won't. I'm trying to call him. She's not answering. He was freaking out. And I was like, okay, Cole, just give me a minute. Let me think about this. Let me see. And I'll call you back. I promise, as soon as I can figure this out. So I called my husband to tell him. And he said, okay, well, I told him what Cole said. And he said, hey, let me call you back in a minute. And so I was still at the nail salon trying to get out of there. And he called and he said, he's dead. I Googled him and he's dead. Alex killed him. Yes.
So see, all that would be hearsay, what Larry told her. And it would be impactful now for Lori to object, because then she cuts this story down, which obviously is not good for Lori, right? That this is how his sister found out, but she is mute.
Yesterday. And I mean, that was just like, it was horrible. I have to call my siblings and let them know.
You see, those are real
Everybody was
tears.
freaked
You
out.
don't
I
have
didn't
to.
know what to do. But I did call Cole back and let him know that it was true, and just was telling me, let's keep in touch. You find out something, I find out something. We'll let each other know. And
Did you try to reach out to Lori?
I tried calling, texting Charles. I tried calling, texting Lori, and at some point she texted me. She returned a text, something like, "I'm having to deal with a lot of stuff, and I'm busy." And she was too busy to even call his family to say that he was dead by her brother killing him. And
But she had time to contact Chad.
Take a breath. So you had tried to reach her and she was too busy to talk to you.
yeah,
Did you ever, what was the burial plans? Did you ever get Charles back? What happened with him?
we ended up calling a detective. The detectives in Chandler, since that's where it happened, and we were able to speak to a detective. I don't know who, but we told them that I had already arranged us a flight for the next day. We were here by noon Saturday because I needed to know where JJ was. I didn't know what he had seen. I didn't know what he knew. I knew he would be. I knew it wasn't good, but I couldn't. We had to talk to the detectives before I did anything with Lori. So, and we had to wait till Sunday to meet with Nate Moffitt, and then when we talked to him is when I told him about the life insurance policy and that Lori, that I didn't know if Charles had ever changed it to me like he said he was going to do. And so I didn't know, but I just knew we had to get JJ because he was not safe with her.
Let me stop you there. I'm going to go back to Charles.
When you hopping on planes the next day, it's serious. So Charles was murdered on a Thursday, I believe it was. And then I think she said she got here on a Saturday. Couldn't talk to the detective until Sunday.
Where was Charles buried, or where was what was done with his remains?
Well, this was before Lori knew she wasn't getting the money. She had him cremated, and he was mailed. He was a FedEx or whatever over to my office, along with his Letterman's jacket from high school and a couple pair of cheap sunglasses and 1 or 2 watches. It was just a few little trinkets. And Charles had a watch collection, and she just sent some crap.
So she cremated him and FedExed him to you?
Yes.
Sent him to your work office?
Yes.
Now you're saying this is before she learned the life insurance policy was not going to be, she was not going to be the beneficiary. Did you set up like a service for Charles?
Yes. My family and I made arrangements for a memorial service to happen in Lake Charles on August the 3rd, which was, he was killed July 11th. So took us a little bit to put it together, but we did.
Did you talk So you had tried to reach her and she was too busy to talk to you?
Yeah.
Did you ever, what was the burial plans? Did you ever get Charles back? What happened with him?
We ended up calling a detective, the detectives in Chandler, since that's where it happened. And we were able to speak to a detective. I don't know who, but we told them that I had already arranged us a flight for the next day. We were here by noon Saturday because I needed to know where JJ was. I didn't know what he had seen. I didn't know what he knew. I knew he would be, I knew it wasn't good. But I couldn't, we had to talk to the detectives before I did anything with Lori. So, and we had to wait till Sunday to meet with Nate Moffitt. And then when we talked to him is when I told him about the life insurance policy and that Lori, that I didn't know if Charles had ever changed it to me like he said he was going to do. And so I didn't know, but I just knew we had to get JJ because he was not safe with her.
Let me stop you there. I'm going to go back to Charles. Where was Charles buried, or what was done with his remains?
Well, this was before Lori knew she wasn't getting the money. She had him cremated, and he was mailed. He was a FedEx or whatever over to my office, along with his Letterman's jacket from high school and a couple pair of cheap sunglasses and 1 or 2 watches. It was just a few little trinkets. And Charles had a watch collection, and she just sent some crap.
So she cremated him and FedExed him to you.
Yes.
Sent him to your work office?
Yes.
Crazy.
Now you're saying this is before she learned the life insurance policy was not going to be the beneficiary. Did you set up like a service for Charles? And
Yes. My family and I made arrangements for a memorial service to happen in Lake Charles on August.
Do you see how the prosecutor has a cohesive story? So you have the remains, and she had to back Kay up there because she went off on a little tangent, but it all fits in. It still works, so she didn't interrupt her. But she has a cohesive story about the remains went there. It was before Lori found out about that she was no longer the beneficiary. Now she's going to go into, so Lori has found out. They haven't had the service yet. And what does she say about JJ going to the service now that she knows she's no longer the beneficiary?
3rd, which was, he was killed July 11th. So took us a little bit to put it together, but we did.
did you talk to Lori about having JJ come out for Charles's service?
I think the last time I talked to Lori was she told us that she wanted, I asked her, what can we do in Houston? I was trying to be nice because I knew she had something to do with his murder. And
no objection.
I'm not one that can just.
That would be speculation. She let Adam slide with it too, but no objection. She's not doing herself any favors as her own counsel.
Lie off the cuff. I don't. I'm a bad liar, and so when I did talk to her, and it was a long, awkward conversation I had with her. But I was like, "What do you want us to do with that stuff at the house in Houston?" But when we got to the house in Houston, and she did, y'all please go do what you want to do with it. See what Cole wants. Y'all split it up. Y'all take it.
She gave you permission to go to the house in Houston and take whatever was there?
Yes. And when we got there, none of Charles's personal belongings were there. Nothing at all. And that I couldn't figure out why nothing of Charles's or JJ's was there. Or wait, nothing of Charles's was there. Just his business files and the big furniture, but sofa, beds, stuff like that.
So you went there, you did that. How did you, and you told us that you did not know for sure if your brother had ever changed the beneficiary from Lori to you. How did you find out if that was done?
I think it was the following week. A lady from Banner Life, that's who wrote the policy. A lady called and said that I was the beneficiary. I was the sole beneficiary, and what was our address, and she wanted to verify a few things and to send out the check.
Are they really sending out $1 million checks? Wouldn't that be like an ACH transfer or wire transfer? Yikes.
Got that call. Did you ever have Lori confront you about the life insurance policy?
Did I ever have Lori what?
Yeah, did Lori ever confront you about being the beneficiary for Charles's life insurance policy?
Yes. She didn't call and do it. She sent me a text one night, a picture or two of a screenshot. She took a screenshot of the change of beneficiary form with my name on it. And she said something to the effect of 5 kids and his sister gets all the money, or is that why you want JJ? Something to that effect, which it made no sense. I want JJ, period. That was a dumb statement by her.
So let me ask you this. So she told you again that she was left with these 5 kids, right?
Yeah, 5 kids. She had Colby and Tylee and JJ. And Colby was out of the house. So it was just Tylee and JJ.
So she's messaging you this saying how upset she is because she has 5 kids to take care of.
Yeah.
And then she tells you that, is this why you wanted JJ to come to Charles's service?
No, I had already gotten the okay from her to come get him. I was going to fly here, pick him up, go back to Louisiana, keep him for a week and attend so he could attend the service during that time. And when she found out when she found the change of beneficiary form, she said that she was too busy. They were moving to Hawaii, and it would be too confusing for JJ to come, and he needed to be with her.
So after she found out and had confronted you about that change of beneficiary where you are now getting Charles's life insurance policy, she changed her mind and refused to let JJ go to Charles's service, his
Yes.
debt service. After this confrontation about Charles making you the beneficiary of the life insurance policy, did that pretty much end most of the contact you had with Lori, other than you reaching out to talk with JJ?
Yes.
Thank you. I have no other questions.
All right, Cross.
Boy.
Did you hear Kay say, "Oh boy," and take a gulp? If she had some whiskey, she might have been gulping that too. Go ahead. Go ahead, Miss Woodcock.
Ms. Woodcock, where were you on July 11th, 2019?
At home in Lake Charles, Louisiana.
Were you aware at all of the relationship between Charles and Tylee?
It was, let's say, it was a bit contemptuous. It seemed like there was always a lot of drama going on, and so that's all I knew. He didn't say too much about it, and I didn't pry.
So she's not giving Lori yes or no answers. She's giving her context.
But you knew that there was some kind of contention going on with those two for
I can't
a
hear
while.
you.
I'm sorry. You did know that there was some kind of contention going on with those two for a while.
Yes.
Okay. And you weren't really aware of the events that happened that morning, were you?
The morning of the
July-
murder?
Of July 11th?
No, I wasn't.
Okay.
Because you didn't tell me.
Zing! Somebody snorted.
Ms. Woodcock, did you see or hear or personally witness me conspire with Alex Cox to kill my husband, Charles Vallow?
No, but I saw a ton of evidence that did.
Thank you. No further questions.
And
All right,
she
redirect.
crawled back to her seat.
You were asked about the relationship between your brother and Tylee. How old was Tylee when Lori and Charles got married?
She was 3, or right around 3.
So was Charles in her life for most of her memorable years?
Exactly. Yes, he was.
And how old was she in July of 2019?
She was 16. Yeah,
So teenager.
yes.
In terms of their relationship, are you saying that Charles and Tylee never had good times?
Oh, I'm not saying that. I saw them have good times, and it wasn't, it wasn't that they couldn't look at each other, or, it wasn't like that. But I mean, yeah, a teenage girl on one is hard anyway. But I do know that there was a lot of issues with her dad and Lori with her ex-husband and custody, and it was a mess. It was a mess.
So Tylee had a lot going on in her life.
Yes, she did.
And you would see her and Charles.
So that was Joe Ryan, the one that Alex attacked with the taser, and that the ex-wife said that she thought Alex wanted to kill him, or Alex said he wanted to kill him, and she thought he was joking. So again, I think she was fighting to keep Tylee because she wanted the money, but those are my 2 cents. Like if Joe got custody or they split custody, that's less money for Lori. If Joe is dead, she gets the Social Security. And you notice she said in the opening that Charles is the one that initiated the Social Security for Tylee on behalf of her deceased father.
At times have difficulty getting along.
I never really saw anything that sticks out in my mind. But I just know he'd tell me how it was just difficult. And as a step parent, it can be very difficult. I can attest to that.
So on July 11th, when Charles Vallow was killed, did you actually have any idea that your brother was dead?
None at all. How would I know?
So in terms of you learning that your brother was dead, it was never from Lori Vallow.
Or from her.
It was
from Google that my husband found.
Thank you. I have no other questions.
Are there any questions for this witness from anyone on the jury? I don't see any questions. You can step down now.
I can't believe the jury didn't have any questions. Like, I would have been asking, and maybe they're being patient. They're not nosy like us. But where is JJ? Where is Tylee? What happened? Did you get him back? Because she said plain as day, I haven't seen him since May, what was it, May 16th? I closed my notes. May 16th of 2019, and we're almost 6 years, a month shy of 6 years later. Let me just make my notes or look at my notes. She said May 18th was the last time she spoke to JJ. So she would have seen him in July if Lori hadn't reneged on him coming to the service for his dad / great uncle, which is just like a crappy thing to do. Especially he's autistic. There's no finality. It's just like Charles disappeared. Do you know? Not that there's necessarily an understanding or finality depending on his degree of autism of seeing it, but at least he's there amongst people who love him, who want him. But I believe at that point, one, Lori wasn't getting the money, so she was bitter against Kay as if she had something to do with it. And two, and rightfully so, she was worried that Kay would keep him. I don't know if Kay would necessarily kidnap him, which is technically what it would be, but maybe she would get like a temporary restraining order. I don't know if she had any documentation of what Charles told her about Lori not wanting him, JJ, or Tylee. But I mean, I think all of us, can Monday morning quarterback and say, had that death been investigated properly, Tylee, JJ, and Tammy would still be alive, right? And Brandon Boudreaux would not have been a target of Alex that got missed. So I don't care if Alex would be alive or not. I don't have any evidence one way or the other if he died of natural causes. It is just astounding. I don't know if because I've recorded like a semi update with the members. So Colby Ryan, who has a different dad than Tylee, but I think either Joe adopted him or at least gave him his last name, probably last name. I think if he were adopted by Joe, somebody would have said that explicitly. But he was there that day and he had a bit of a stare down with his mom. I recommend his podcast, Colby Ryan, COLBY Megan's Hidden True Crime has got some great interviews. There was one this weekend with Colby, which I really liked because the Dr. Matthias was there and kind of explaining just some of the psychological stuff that I also like to dig into. Not a doctor, not a lawyer, just a nosy lady, a nosy eccentric lady in Manhattan is what I am. So yeah, it was very emotional on Thursday, which is what I had to take a beat to record it. Although I was hoping to record this weekend, but anyway, I'm here now. Very interesting, but I know you guys are saying, yeah, she's going to blame it on Tylee. I just don't think she's laying that foundation. I don't see enough contention for Tylee to just go after Charles with the bat. Nothing that's been said about Charles, like from the landlord to Adam to his sister, they refer to him as soft-spoken. I don't see him going after Tylee with the bat. He's an older gentleman. I believe he was 17 years older than Lori, so he was in his 60s at least, depending on where their birthdays, where it breaks. But it is like when he was talking to the police, he just seemed to be himself, low-key. Even his urgency was like, he was still like, I very much love this woman. I want to get her help. Karen Joe reiterated that, like, he still had a lot of compassion. I'm not going to say we all have, but a lot of us have dated people who have exes or are going through a divorce. And they usually don't have nice things to say, right? They usually don't still show kindness to them. They may have like memories of fondness from years yonder, but not in the current sense. And it sounded like he was still conflicted. He still loved her and was hoping to get the real her back, not knowing that the real her had just arrived, right? Anyway, let me know what you think. I'm late. The trial has already started for Monday, and a juror is late. There's some motions in limine, so I gotta go get caught up on that. But wow. The ties that bind. I feel like that was really powerful testimony from both Kay and Adam. And one of you guys in the members' comments let me know that someone on scene said jurors were rolling their eyes at Lori at some point. And then someone else asked if we are worried, if they are worried about her mental health diagnosis. I don't know if the diagnosis has come in there, but definitely I would be questioning it. She's like thinking people are dark and light. Ned took over Charles's body. She doesn't have to repent. She's married to an angel. She's like Nephi. That does not sound like the ramblings of a sane woman, but it's inferred that she's now sane, or at least competent, because she's representing herself and she's standing trial. If you're not competent to stand trial, you don't, right? So a lot going on, praying for justice for not only Charles, but for everybody involved, Kay, Adam, all those who obviously loved this man and missed him. So looking forward to talking to you in the comments. I really want to know what you guys think. And if I've missed anything where Lori has entered actual evidence about Tylee attacking Charles or blaming it on Charles, let me know. Let me know. I want to go over Alex's interview the day of the shooting with you guys. So hopefully I can get up early in the morning and we can do that. All right. Thanks for hanging out with me. I appreciate you. Talk to you later. Toodles.